Mark, thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
You are now one of the most popular talk show hosts in the country. Does that surprise you?
You know, John, I really don't think about it. I just do my thing every day, and I'm driven to try and do whatever I can in my own little way to help preserve this society. And if people agree with me, I think that's tremendous, because if we don't get millions of people who think the same way, we're going to lose this society. So I don't really sit back and think about that.
Well, you worked in the Reagan administration. And my bet is with this troubled economy and the national debt growing and this huge deficit we're piling onto our kids, what do you think Reagan would do if he were alive today? How would he stare down this whole mess?
I think he'd do exactly the opposite of what we're doing today. I think he would be liberating the economy, liberating wealth, promoting competition, promoting startups, rewarding investment and capital creation, and doing all the things you need to do to create jobs and wealth. Unfortunately, what's going on now is the government sector is massively building, and that's where the job creation is. And you take $1 out of the private sector and give it to the government, and you're going to put people out of work. The government's inefficient. The government, in some ways, is authoritarian. And the government does not provide us with the sustenance that we need. We do through the private sector. So I think this administration is the mirror opposite of what the Reagan administration was.
Okay, now you've got a remarkably best-selling book, and it covers some topics that are important for all generations. What formed your thinking process? Is there a book or a couple of books, or is there any sources of information beyond your own books that if young people in particular were to come to you and say, Mark, what should I read in order to be better educated on the topic?
Well, you know, the first thing that affected me wasn't a book. It was going to Independence Hall, going to what was the Pennsylvania Assembly Room, where they debated and wrote and ratified the Declaration. And then a few years later, several years later, the Constitution of the United States. And it became clear to me even at a young age, they didn't do that to create a big government. They didn't need to do all that to create a big government. They did it for liberty. And then as I got older, I realized the Revolutionary War was fought for liberty. The Civil War was fought for liberty. World War II was fought for liberty, not some massive bureaucracy that redistributes wealth. And there were great thinkers and writers that eventually had an influence on me after, you know, my gut reaction. Buckley, Friedman, Goldwater's book, Conscience of a Conservative from 1960, and many others. And over time, you begin to read these philosophers like Erich Hoffer, and you go back to Montesquieu and Cicero and Burke in particular, and Adam Smith. But there were also great leaders that were coming up when I was a young man, governors and senators. And the one that caught my attention first and foremost was Ronald Reagan. And being from Pennsylvania, Pennsylvanians, well, what's this Governor Reagan? What has he ever done? Well, I could tell who he was and what he was doing. And what he was a man who, in my view, confirmed my beliefs, that this is a great country, and it's a great country because of the individual, ordered liberty, the Constitution, and not all this massive government stuff.
Do you think there's hope out there for those that are in this times when they're looking for smaller government and just plain old more liberty?
I think these are perilous times. I do think we're at the precipice. And the good news is the American people have been awakened. The sleeping giant is awake, and they don't like what they see. They don't want their companies nationalized. They don't want their taxes raised. They don't want to lose their jobs. And they see a president who is lurching hard left and in an effort to transform the society in ways that Americans don't like. I mean, you know, this is a magnificent place. We're blessed to be here. Why do we want to trash it? Why do we want to change it in ways that are alien to our traditions? I mean, our parents and grandparents have built a magnificent society for us, and it's our responsibility to continue that for our children and grandchildren. The hope is that I think a large majority of Americans agree with us. But we do need to control what's going on now quickly and begin to reverse course before it is too late, because I know that's where they're pushing us. They're pushing us over a cliff. We got to pull us back as fast as we can and reverse course.
Great. Mark, thanks so much.
It's a great honor, John.